Hey everybody. I just wanted to do a quick video and talk about acoustic gigs. I think most of what I'm associated with is sort of the rock band, more loud electric guitar type stuff. But I think that there is a fair amount of acoustic guitar on all of the records that I've put out, and I've over the last few years done a lot more solo gigs and acoustic duo and trio gigs. So I think I'm at a point where acoustic guitar makes up about half of everything that I'm doing. Um, and I honestly, I love acoustic guitar. A good acoustic guitar is maybe more close to the sound in my head than some of the electric sounds. That being said, I figure I'll talk about my approach to solo gigs and kind of how I got there, um, acoustic trio gigs, and then talk a little bit about sort of gear choices and how to things that I've learned about trying to get a good acoustic sound in a room. So first off, solo gigs. The thing with solo gigs is I've seen so many people do solo gigs so many different ways, whether it's with backing tracks or building loops or you're doing sort of one man band type things. And those are all super interesting and valid ways to do solo gigs. And I think that's maybe one of the most interesting things is like everybody has a different approach to it. But for me personally, I think some of the most powerful musical performances that I've seen have been somebody with an instrument singing a song in a room. Um, so most of the time when I do a solo gig, or 100% of the time when I do a solo gig, it's me with an acoustic guitar and a microphone trying to sing songs that are interesting with good arrangements. Which is something that took me a long time to get comfortable with. I probably didn't start doing solo gigs until 3 or 4 years ago, and it was a learned skill. It's something that like my approach to playing guitar had to change to accommodate that. My approach to thinking about song arrangements had to change to accommodate the fact that there weren't you know big guitar solos really, which is something that I'd relied on for a while. And then my other big thing was like singing had to figure out how to match what was going on. And I had taken vocal lessons, but I didn't really think that I was a strong enough singer to be able to do 3 hours or 4 hours sometimes of acoustic guitar and voice, right? Um, so to me, it started off being really intimidating, and it's something that I think I like doing because it really improves my concept of arrangements, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Um, so arrangement wise, like sitting down with an acoustic guitar and a vocal can be interesting, but to keep it interesting for 3 hours is really difficult. I don't know if anybody's been to a show, even with the best band in the world, um, the most inspiring people in the world, and you get 2 hours in and you just kind of feel exhausted, or you feel like this has been a long time hearing like a limited capacity of sounds, right? And I know for me, some of my favorite shows I've left feeling really exhausted, and they've only been 2 hours sometimes. So I've tried to be really mindful and careful about taking breaks in solo sets, um, playing things of different styles, incorporating things that are more roots oriented or more jazz oriented or more songwriter. Trying to have a pretty wide variety of material to keep things interesting, but also understanding that that's just a really tall order. Um, but it's the challenge, and it's the challenge that really helped me because it puts a lot of pressure on having good songs and good arrangements. So I think it's a really valuable skill and something that I'm very uh, excited to do, um, to really test out, especially if I'm working on new songs, to test out arrangements of those new songs. Because if it works like this, right, then it's going to work in a band. If it works in a band, it won't always necessarily work like this. So that's more of the solo set mentality. The acoustic trio mentality. has always I've done that for a little bit longer, and it's maybe a little bit more of sort of like the electric band approach, where we are doing solos and we're kind of jamming out, but you also have to be aware that like you don't have sort of the dynamic range, right? With an electric guitar, you can stomp on a fuzz pedal and you know, take it way out there, and with an acoustic guitar, sort of that's your dynamic range, right? Like you can get completely silent or you can get there. And so you know, trying to hone in and be really mindful of dynamics. Excuse me. That being said, playing the acoustic trio shows also is something that I think has made us tighter as a band. It's been, you know, it kind of shows glaringly when things aren't working or when things need to be more interesting, you know, taking away a lot of effects or fuzz or whatever. So I'll just briefly talk a little bit about things that we've learned gear wise. It's evolved over several years. Like we've learned that acoustic guitar and cymbals really compete with each other. So the percussion kits have changed. I wouldn't say they've gotten a lot smaller, but they've changed. Have to be really mindful of sort of what the low end of the bass is going to do to the guitar, because you can a lot of times get this weird resonant feedback. So a few things that I do to fight those is I always use this LR Baggs Venue DI, because I like the notch filters and the EQ that you can get from this. You know, not every PA is going to have the greatest EQ capacity, especially where we're playing. Not every room is going to be sympathetic to 175 hum. So, you know, having something like this has been a game changer in terms of making an acoustic guitar sound good in a room. One other trick that I've learned, in case anybody's interested, and I think a lot of people do it, but I use this AER amp, and a lot of people use the Fishman type amps, or Fender has one that's like it, but it has an input for a guitar and a microphone, and those, you know, if I'm just doing a solo gig, sometimes I can get away with just using the amp, but if I'm on stage somewhere doing an acoustic trio, most of the time I won't have any guitar and a monitor at all, and just run guitar through the amp, because I can control it, the EQ, more specifically on that than what would be coming out of a monitor. And that's been, you know, I've used feedback busters and I haven't really had a lot of success with that. I still get sort of a resonant frequency on the low end. So those are two ways that we're not using in-ears, so those are two ways that we've been able to get as much volume out of an acoustic guitar as possible. And then, you know, if we're doing just sort of like an acoustic breakdown, this guitar I picked up at Guitar Center in Wichita. It's an acoustic Framus, but it has like one of these old school sort of single coil pickups, and I put flat ones on it, and it's a little bit out of tune right now, but it's been really fun to kind of take a minute in some of the electric band shows, and I can play this through the electric rig and get kind of a cool, almost Lightning Hopkins type sound out of it, right? But it's been an alternative, and it's something that I've used at Nice Music Monday for the last few months, because even though it's Nice Music Monday, sometimes we still get a little bit more rocking than my acoustic guitar can really put up with. So this has been kind of a game changer, and I get a lot of questions about it. So it's a mid-60s Framus. I think it's called a Texan. But it's a bolt-on neck. It's nothing particularly special, but it does sound really good, and it's set up to play really well. So those are some of my thoughts on the acoustic gigs. If you have any questions, hit me up, and you know, come see us sometime. Thanks for watching. Bye.